Goku, Superman, Gojo, Uncle Grandpa.
Good morning.
There's a lot of strong characters that nerds on Twitter love to fight over. But if the Book of Bill has taught me anything, it's that Bill Cipher is absolutely a force to be reckoned with as one of the most powerful characters in all of fiction. I mean, the only thing that managed to destroy him didn't even keep him dead for all that long. He's a handshake away from reigniting the apocalypse. And we don't know the extent of his power after all of this time. Like, you may know that he can possess the living, but did you know that he can also possess the dead? Multiple corpses at the same time. Did you know that he can see into a buttload of possible future realities and figure out which one is the most likely? Or that the devil himself didn't even want Bill chilling in his domain? Okay, that last one isn't a power, but it was still worth mentioning because, whoa. This Dorito-shaped dream demon has a pretty extensive arsenal of abilities, so I wanted to lay them all out on the table so we could unpack just how terrifying Bill Cipher truly is. Also, this is a re-upload because I was overconfident in my ability to remember every single detail about the show and got something wrong, but it was early enough in the day that a lot of people hadn't seen it yet, so I fixed it. We all take L's sometimes. But real quick, I just want to plug our new channel, Roundtable Rewind, presenting a bunch of old videos, re-edited into themed compilations that you can throw on while studying, drawing, sleeping, or just doing some chores. We got a Gravity Falls one out right now that goes over a ton of lore relevant to this video, so check it out after. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now let's talk about Bill. The best place to start would be with one of Bill's signature abilities, Dealmaking. Although it's not powerful on its own, it serves as a gateway between dimensions and a tactic for Bill to unleash some of his other abilities. Shaking hands with another being, often a mortal in the physical world, in order to facilitate a deal. Alternatively, mortals can also sign a soul contract with Cipher, which, as the name implies, sees a human fork over their soul in exchange for unending misery? I will say that contracts are probably more ideal for Bill if his plans rely on someone's long-term involvement. As we've seen that regular deals can be called off, it just won't save them from their current predicament. Usually Bill masks his true intentions in these propositions, often planning to possess those he strikes a deal with and never fulfilling his end of the bargain. But once in a blue moon, there are deals like the two he made with Gideon, where both parties genuinely get something out of their arrangement. It isn't really clear what Bill got out of their first deal in Dreamscaper, on account of Mabel getting rid of the cultist Dan's vault. He just claims that Gideon would pay him handsomely. If I had to guess, Bill probably wanted the chance to raid Stanley's mind to see if he could learn anything new about Ford, because frankly, he's obsessed with the guy. Or maybe Gideon was going to give him the chance to look through journal number 2, in the event that it had information that was useful to Bill. Maybe Bill just wanted to get a feel for the Zodiac Squad, knowing they'd chase him down in Stan's mind, and thus he could see if they were threats to his mission. Foes who were worth taking seriously. Maybe he just wanted to stir up some chaos. Any of these answers check out to me. But again, the circumstances of the deal are just super vague. Now, the deal Bill and Gideon make off screen after the Stanchurian candidate is much easier to piece together. Gideon is granted freedom from prison, but when Weirdmageddon begins, he has to serve Bill as one of his horsemen of the apocalypse. Sorry, Nathaniel. When Gideon violates this deal and attempts to betray Bill, he's locked in a cage, thrown in a sailor suit, and forced to dance endlessly for Bill's amusement, still serving him in the apocalypse just as entertainment. As for Blendon, we're given insight into his deal with Bill in the Real Life Journal 3, as a coded message reveals that after being scolded by Time Baby and his peers, he wished that he could earn Time Baby's respect. So Bill swoops in through a dream and offers to make Time Baby leave him alone for good. And all Blendon has to do is shake his hand. Blendon, being oblivious and impulsive, took Bill up on his offer, and next thing he knew, Bill sighted an apocalypse. This perfectly demonstrates how Bill is very careful with his wording and will screw anyone over with a deal, because technically, he did make sure Time Baby left Blendon alone by killing him, even if Time Baby's gonna regenerate later. And now Blendon is stranded in the 1880s after fleeing from the Time Police because they blame him for murdering Time Baby. Never trust a Dorito. Now, deals don't seem to strengthen Bill's powers, or at the very least, that's never been specified. An abundance of deals just seems to give him more insurance, extra options if he needs a spare vessel or some strings to be pulled. Though if he owns your soul, he's probably gonna eat it, which might explain why he's been alive for over 1 trillion years. Next up is Ciphervoyance. Yes, that's what Bill actually calls this power. Being based off the Eye of Providence, it should be no surprise that Bill has his own spin on clairvoyance. It's been said before in the show itself, but Bill has eyes everywhere. And he's not just talking about cults and pawns, no. It's a bit more literal. Bill can see through any depiction of him. Doesn't matter if it's drawn, scratched, spray painted, or burned. If it even vaguely looks like a triangle with an eye, it's a personalized peephole for old Billy. So he might be in your wallet as we speak. A lot of $1 bills in the world. This is why he was so locked in with the Pines family. The stained glass window in the attic, the rug near the vending machine, Forrick's gigantic shrine that he kept covered in his study. Hell, you could even make an argument for the portal and the window above Dipper and Mabel's beds. Bill was playing I Spy all over the Mystery Shack. Not to mention the abundance of bills scattered all throughout town. He's programmed into one of the cabinets at the arcade. The Northwest have a tapestry of humans worshipping him. The portal being bill-shaped means he's lurking in McGucket's laptop. He might even be able to see through the trees. I don't know, these became actualized in the Mindscape, so I choose to believe it. This transcends the regular old Gravity Falls universe, by the way. The Bill Easter eggs in shows like Rick and Morty and Amphibia? Those are monoculars for his amusement. We actually get an idea of how he spies on people in the last Mabelcorn, where the end of the episode shows Bill in the Nightmare Realm, watching over Dipper and Forb through an orb as they cipher-proof the Mystery Shack. I imagine this orb can take on different forms though, as he's watching some of Dipper's memories through a TV in the Book of Bill. But maybe that was just a man cave he whipped up for himself in Dipper's mind. Although deals might not make Bill any more powerful on their own, apparently these little bills might. He claims that the more he sees, the more powerful he grows. Which it wouldn't surprise me if that was literal. But it might just mean that the more he sees, the more he learns. And as we all know, knowledge is power. Bill knows lots of things. Because he's been picking puppets on Earth pretty much since mankind's inception. He's witnessed more history than any living being on the planet. He's also seen the literal secrets of the universe through a keyhole. And retaining everything he saw speaks volumes to how sharp his mind is. But seeing everything everywhere all at once isn't the only thing that comes with Ciphervoyance. Bill has the ability to gaze into infinite timelines. He doesn't subscribe to the idea of there being one definite future that he can see into, because the future's constantly changing. What he can see is infinite possibilities across a spectrum of probability, and with his expert deduction skills, he can determine which future reality is the most likely to occur, though that means it's probably also a future he manipulated into happening, if there was a chance he could benefit from it. He can see pretty far into the future too, as he knows at least one future where Ford dies of a heart attack at 92 years old. With this ability, Cipher's also able to see all the realities where Dipper and Mabel were killed during their summer vacation, which apparently was every single timeline but the one we saw occur on screen. It's possible that Bill has the power to traverse between all these other realities, as he teases the idea of these parallel pines getting the chance to gang up on Prime Dipper and Mabel someday in the future. We also got a whole video on this, check it out. I think it's very well established that Bill loves messing with people, but you know what else he also loves? My mom! Arson! Cipher is very proficient at pyrokenesis, or as he calls it, pyrokenesis? I won't question it, which seems to be a power that he was born with and struggled to control for quite some time. According to Bill himself, the children of Euclidia used to bully him in grade school, singing, "Cipher, Cipher, he's insane, starting fires with his brain," which is unfortunately a bar. And it shows that Bill was probably setting everything ablaze regardless of if he wanted to or not. Waves of fire often accompany his fits of rage, so it's definitely influenced by emotion. And as I covered in its own video, Bill's pyrokenesis is so powerful that he was able to burn his entire home universe out of existence, slaughtering every single Euclidean, including his own parents. It's also implied that Bill was the one who thought Time Baby from a giant glacier, so he could attempt to make a deal and travel back in time to stop himself from destroying Euclidia. But since that glacier was in the Antarctic, I'm not sure how this would have been possible without a vessel, and as we'll touch on later, Bill's powers don't carry carry over to anyone he's possessing. But maybe this was another glacier in another dimension that Bill could access, during another instance where Time Baby was frozen. It could have happened more than once. These guys live for a long time. Regardless, I don't know many fire users who are strong enough to decimate an entire universe with their flames. Sorry, Ace, Zuko, and Roy Mustang. The triangle has you beat at your own game. Where Bill really shines, however, is with the Mindscape, as it goes hand in hand with an array of his powers, like mind reading. When someone falls into the REM stage of sleep, their mind opens a tunnel up for Bill to slide through. Once he's in your mind, he can access all of your memories and learn everything there is to know about you. Keeping secrets from him is nearly impossible. He can directly invade your dreams whenever he pleases on some Freddy Krueger type of timing.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Once he's in your head, he's free to do whatever he wants to it. He can make you forget how to breathe, sleep, or eat for the hell of it. The only way to keep him out of your mind is with, well, actually something like tinfoil. Ford had an aluminum plate put in his head, but Bill said that was a tiny bit dramatic. Cipher seems to have limited influence over the physical world from the Mindscape, as he sports the ability to knock people unconscious, at least when being summoned. Although Gideon was the one who was calling upon him, Mabel and Seuss also got pulled into the Mindscape while falling asleep instantaneously, despite watching from a distance. Time standing completely still within the Mindscape, regardless of if they just happened to be in range or if Bill knew they were there and pulled them in intentionally. The fact that well-rested, fully awake individuals can fall victim to his dream demon magic is wild. That said, it's much easier for Bill to pull you into the Mindscape when you're sleep deprived, as shown in both Sock Opera and the Lost Journal 3 pages in the Book of Bill. Cipher was able to take advantage of Dipper's obsession with unlocking the laptop by visiting him once at night in an attempt to bargain with Dipper, only to raise the stakes the next day and cause Dipper to hallucinate by making it seem as if the laptop is going to erase all of its data if he doesn't figure out the password in time. In reality, this safety protocol never existed and the laptop was fine, but not for long. Dipper got it easy compared to Ford, however, as Bill never used an illusion to inflict pain onto Dipper. We learned in the newly uncovered Journal 3 pages that after Ford and Bill's falling out, Ford slowly went insane as he stopped sleeping, so Bill wouldn't be able to hijack his body. This didn't exactly work out in Ford's favor, however, as he'd collapse and wake up to find that Bill still had a joyride in his body, wreaking havoc all over town, which only pissed Ford off. But when he tried to stand his ground, things got a little intense. I was livid. I hurled the tape into the fire and screamed, "You have no power here! You're just in my mind! I can outlast anything you can—" When, suddenly, something started to feel off. My vision flickered. The clock had stopped ticking. Something was wrong. Then, blackness, 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 blackness. Where was I? My body was paralyzed. I felt my bones being pulled slowly out of their sockets. It was excruciating. I tried to scream, but nothing came out.
Thanks, Sixer. You let me in your head. Do you realize what I can do in here if I want? I can flip a switch that makes every neuron burn with pain beyond imagination. I can rewire your optic nerve so the sky is below you. Play a tone that gets louder and louder until you
bash in your own skull just to make it stop.
I can delete memories randomly, just for fun. Maybe I already have. What do you want to remember? Your mother's face? Your own name? Who are you anyway?
That's ridiculous, I shouted. I panicked. I couldn't recall my name. I began to shake. He flipped his finger like he was turning on a light switch, and it came to me. I'm Stanford. Flipped again. I went blank. I felt my sockets start to strain. Any second my tendons would pop. My bones would splinter. I fell to the ground on the verge of vomiting.
You're my property. Don't forget it. The hillbilly abandoned you. Your father won't want you returning without millions. You have no friends. And if you died out here in the snow, who would even miss you?
Turn on the portal. I've waited too long for this. By the way, I'm sending someone to steal your eyes. That's not a joke. I have a friend that will steal your eyes. You have 72 hours. Don't cross me again.
Yeah, like I said, intense. Bill claims that all of this was just a joke and that Ford's overreacting, which really says everything you need to know about how abusive their relationship was, but that's for another video. As a dream demon, Bill has the greatest grip on the reality-altering abilities that those in the Mindscape have access to, being able to conjure up anything he wants, but typically leans into horrors beyond comprehension. He's also able to make himself impenetrable. Even Dipper, Mabel, and Sue's trying to cast him out was overridden by him just rage quitting. What sets Bill apart from everyone else, though, is that he still has access to these reality warping abilities in his physical form, making him nearly unstoppable. Alright, we're getting down to the wire here, so let's have a lightning round on the powers that we don't have extensive detail on, but are still worth mentioning. Bill's getting all the glaze today. Time travel. I mean, he had to make a deal with Blendon somehow, and Blendon lives in the future, at least before Weirdmageddon. If Bill is able to traverse in between different realities, then traversing between the present and future isn't completely out of the question, especially since he's able to stop time when Weirdmageddon begins. Shadow travel. He only does this once in sock opera, but it appears that as a two-dimensional being, Bill can traverse the Earth without a physical form exclusively through shadows, allowing him to keep a closer eye on his pawns. Duplication. Yeah, it's something he dabbles in. Teleportation. Yeah, it's something he dabbles in. Image projection. He can project holographic images from his eye or treat his body like a flat screen TV. Lasers. Lasers. Alright, it's time for the big one. Possession. Bill's most infamous ability that, if you ask me, is by far the scariest one because, oh my god, the Dorito was inside of me! 9 out of 10 times, this move is the reason why Bill's making deals. Trying to shake an unsuspecting mortal's hand so he can hijack their body, booting their soul out in the process. Though, judging by Ford, it appears that he can also just keep the host unconscious if they fall asleep or tag himself in momentarily. However, Bill's dream powers don't translate to the possessed. He's only as strong as the body he's inhabiting. Now, the show depicts those under Bill's control with the iconic Cipher eyes, with his voice coming out of their mouth. But in universe, the possession isn't that obvious to those around the host. According to Ford, possessed pupils are only slightly altered. A retinal scan could pick up on it, but unless you're inspecting their eyeballs up close and personal with a flashlight, it'll be easy to overlook. And although we hear Bill's voice come out the possessed mouse in the show, it just sounds like whoever got body jacked to the characters, which is demonstrated to us in Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future. That creepy but awesome moment where Bill's voice is overlaid with Blendon's was just for us, the audience. To Mabel, I think she just pieced together what was going on the second the rift broke. It's worth noting that there's only one life form whose people stay the same when possessed by Bill. Goats! And although there's nothing to suggest that Bill possessed Gompers during the events of the series, I don't think it's something we should rule out, especially for the future. Bill's possession always felt like the worst case scenario for his adversaries, because he thinks pain is hilarious and has no qualms roughing up the body he's in. This isn't ignorance either. Bill knows exactly what he's doing, which is very much emphasized in Journal 3 and the Book of Bill, with the revelations that he planned to kill both Dipper and Ford while in their bodies, writing to Mabel that he was going to jump off the water tower and make it seem like Dipper just went crazy, threatening to do the same to her. And while taking a joyride in Ford's body after they're falling out, he tried to call Stan to pretty much tell him that he was going to jump into a frozen lake and that he still hates him, which would have devastated the entire Pines family. I mean, maybe not their dad, but it's a fun thought. Bill's possession isn't limited to just inanimate objects like sock puppets or mortals getting swindled out of their autonomy. We learned that Bill is also able to raise the dead, animating an entire graveyard of corpses during his beef with Ford. Zombills! With bonesaw, shotgun, and lantern in hand, I trekked to the Valentino family mortuary, which I hadn't visited since my run-in with the grounds creeper. See Journal 2, Crit-Ids. I reminded myself as I crowbarred my way into the morgue that 19th century doctors frequently robbed graves in the name of science. Surely this was morally justified and wouldn't incur any sort of curse. No sooner had I retrieved a brain than I noticed the ground started to shake beneath me. It was at this moment that I learned two interesting facts. 1. Bill Cipher can possess corpses. 2. Bill Cipher can possess corpses! From the graves around me arose a horde of cackling cadavers, eyes aglow. I raced for the car, blasting the invaders with my shotgun until only one stood, blocking my way. Shotgun in hand, I demanded answers. Why are you doing this? Why won't you just leave me alone? Even without a tongue, the zombie spoke in Cipher's unmistakable voice.
Oh, come on, Sixer. We both know you don't really want to be left alone. You love how important I make you feel, and I love having a pet human in my pocket. It's a win-win.
Don't forget which one of us is holding a gun. I warned him. He grinned an inhumanely wide grin.
Forzy, nobody else really gets you, do they? Without me, you'll always feel unseen, surrounded by adults who don't recognize your true potential. You've always felt alone in a crowd, haven't you? Who else will give you this feeling again? Even if you got rid of me, you'd miss me. Admit it, you'd miss me.
I hesitated. I have missed you, I replied. He smiled. But my aim is getting better! I blasted the last zombie to the ground, then shot 2 more times and spat where I stood. I was so exhausted I could barely stand, but I knew falling asleep would make me his next zombie. I picked up the brain and made my way home as snow began to fall. I admit, I was pretty proud of my comeback. Pretty sure I heard that from Dad. I assume Bill's able to possess dead bodies because they're no longer occupied by a soul, which makes the idea of him jumping off the water tower in Dipper's body all the more disturbing. Knowing Bill, he would have waited till Mabel either found Dipper's body or his funeral to jump back in and parade Pine Tree around town one last time. The fact he can control multiple corpses at the same time is just nutty. While I doubt a bite from a zombie would turn you into one, as they presumably have the same limitations as other possessions, and like the cursed magic that brought the zombies in Karaoke to life, I imagine that strafe in numbers would make it very easy for them to rip someone apart. There's always a shot at beating Bill so long as he's confined to the Mindscape, but should he gain a physical form, you better pray for a miracle because odds are, all hope is lost. As a literal living nightmare, there's no restrictions to Bill's abilities. His dream demon powers carry over to the real world, handing him control of time, space, matter, and well, reality itself. Just like in the mind, he can do anything. Rearranging every orifice on Nathaniel Northwest's face, transforming humans and ordinary objects into supernatural vehicles, willing his own domain to existence. Even the sky can't put a limit on him. Not to mention he created Mabelland, a whole ass pocket reality designed to fulfill anyone's deepest desires. The addition of a physical form gives him some added perks. Since he's now a tangible being, he's vulnerable to physical attacks. To compensate for this, not only can he repel things from his eye, though he needs to be focused on the threat, but he also sports near instantaneous regeneration abilities. Although his eye does seem to take longer to restore than any other body part. Gaining a physical body also transforms Bill from a 2-dimensional being to a 3-dimensional being, enabling him to shuffle through an array of transformations, from a triangular prism to a 6-armed pyramid to a monstrous beast. Having a physical form doesn't stop him from jumping into the Mindscape either, as he's shown to hop between realms whenever he wants. His physical body just becomes stone in the process, which acts as insurance for Bill, because although his body is now a statue on Earth, if anyone comes into contact with the statue, he can possess their body and find another way to restart Weirdmageddon. Now you may be wondering, is there any way to kill this guy? Like clearly the memory gun didn't work, so what could put him 6 feet under for good? To be frank, that's its own can of worms that's worthy of its own video. For now, we've ran through all of his major feats, and I need to take a breather, so I think we're done here. Drop your thoughts on Bill's powers in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Insta at AwestruckVox and at Roundtable Vids. Shout out to JANKYBONES for another amazing thumbnail. Give them a follow over on Twitter at JANKYBONE, or check out their store and get yourself something nice. Links in the description. Subscribe to Roundtable Rewind, and if you enjoyed this video, throw it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!